cues in the hands of Chris Van Meter a couple weeks ago. But that has not necessarily translated into huge representation in a lot of standard tournaments.
Red Green Dragons did not have a great showing at the following Pro Tour, despite Chris Van Meter's win. And to be honest, like playing the regional PTQs last weekend, for example, I didn't see the deck, never played against it. Didn't see, and no copies made it in the top 8 of the one I went to. It seemed like it had fallen off, but clearly not. We're underway game 3. Chris is on the play. He is on a Moldafy against Abzan Aggro. This is the kind of matchup where, I don't know, how do you feel like this one plays out? Which side do you want to be on?
I think, well, on 5 cards, obviously, I'd rather be on the Abzan Aggro side of things. But I actually like the Abzan Aggro deck in this matchup. It's got a lower base and then has Hero's Downfalls and Abzan Charms to break up the big outputs that the Devotion decks, the Dragon Style decks bring to the table.
I feel like they're playing creatures of a roughly the same size. Say they both play 4/4s. Chris's cost 4 mana and Greg's cost 3. Chris gets the advantage that his have some protection abilities and get to fly, but in a matchup where the creatures are bashing into each other, I don't know if I want to pay extra mana for those abilities. I'd rather just have the body.
Yeah.
So Chris, turn 2 on the play, does have a Sylvan Carry added, and on Greg's side, he has Rakshasa Death Dealer. This could be a spot where Chris can pull back off a Moldafy. You see he has Courser of Kruphix in his hand. Courser, one of my favorite parts about the card is just how good it is at getting people out of mulligans. Gets a Courser, doesn't get the free land, shows Rattleclaw Mystic, but does play a fetch land from hand and passes. So if the Courser doesn't die, that fetch land should help him get free cards off Courser.
The issue is, again, Dromoka's command has changed the equation for how reliable Courser Kruphix is.
Absolutely. See whether Greg lets him keep it. Absolutely not. Dromoka's command, puts a counter on Death Dealer, sacrifices the enchantment. Chris, does he want to draw Rattleclaw Mystic next turn? He's going to say yes. He'll just let the Courser go down.
Chris has Dragon Lord Dromoka in hand. So this is the card that Dragon Lord Atarka in hand. So this is what he's playing towards in this game.
Looks like, actually, he is going to fetch, but nice subtlety on Chris's side. He's going to fetch, but he did it after the Courser died because he doesn't want Greg to see what the next draw is.
Exactly. In those spots, you have the option. Do I sack my fetch land and stay neutral on life, but my opponent gets to see my next draw step, or do I take the point of damage but conceal what my next draw step is?
Chris's remaining hand is a copy of Polukranos and Dragon Lord Atarka. Atarka's a long ways off, but Polukranos could stabilize the board for a while, but Greg drawing a much better card. It's another copy of Courser.
He doesn't really want to curve with Polukranos here, just because it's so likely that Greg devours it with a downfall. So the opportunity to play Courser, which also necessitates a removal spell, and find a land this turn is pretty big upside for Chris.
Plays Courser, finds Temple. Beautiful turn for Chris. Yeah. And actually, Polukranos has an issue that even if Greg just plays another land, as long as it's not a Plains, he can just swing the Death Dealer into Polukranos.
Yep. It's not the end-all be-all in this matchup. You know, Greg's creatures are large, and Greg is also armed with a lot of ways to easily destroy a Polukranos.
Great sequencing by Chris. Had the option to keep that untapped land to try to work his way toward Atarka, but decides to scry it to the bottom off Temple and shows Arbor Colossus with 5 mana on the board. Chris may be able to get this.
What I like about this is, cards like Arbor Colossus, yes, Greg can kill them, but it's Greg's entire turn to kill them. And Greg is not attacking for very much right now. So if he spends his turn killing an Arbor Colossus, great. Especially if Chris is able to find land drops with the Courser, well, he's getting closer to Dragon Lord Atarka, which may be able to turn the game around for Chris.
A swing for 3 puts Hopkins down to 14. Greg plays a Temple, scries the bottom, and for 2 mana, looks like he is going to go for Fleecemane Lion. So Chris will get to draw Arbor Colossus. Will he net another free card off Courser? He will not. The top card is a third Courser of Kruphix. There is some danger that this Fleecemane Lion will get to use Monstrosity. But to that effect, how relevant is Indestructible in this matchup? I know that sounds weird because you normally think Hexproof and Indestructible. It's great. But Chris isn't really in the market for killing Greg's things anyway. He's kind of going to just race with some fat.
Chris can crank out a lot of 5/5s on the ground, which is a good answer to Fleecemane Lion. He also has a ton of flyers, which is a good answer to Fleecemane Lion.
If Greg's spending his turn, putting a counter on the Lion, it feels like a win for Chris.
Especially with the amount of power in Chris's hand. I mean, if Greg does it, it's somewhat annoying for Chris to attack on the ground, but in terms of can his deck work around a 4/4 indestructible ground creature? Absolutely.
Chris had the option between casting Polukranos and Arbor Colossus. He goes with Polukranos. For Peliquin, it's going to be Abzan Charm exiling the Polukranos and then swinging the team. Chris can now make the safe block of Courser Kruphix onto Fleecemane Lion. He takes 3 from the Death Dealer and goes down to 11. Still taking hits off the powerful 2-drops of Abzan Aggro. But, as you said, not working his way toward Atarka, and with a second Corsair, he's going to undo a lot of this damage even.
Yeah, if Chris and Greg spend turns essentially trading turns, and Chris is making his land drops, that's very favorable for Chris.
Land for Chris, that's mana source number 6. Shows Dragonlord Atarka on top of the deck, and he'll go ahead, imagine cast Arbor Colossus. If he wanted to play Corsair this turn, he would have done it before playing the Forest off the top of his deck.
Unless the information from
Atarka changes it.
Because now Chris might be saying, with Dragonlord Atarka on top of the deck, Greg is very likely to kill my Corsair next turn, and then I don't have the opportunity to have the requisite mana for Dragonlord Atarka. So maybe it's worth casting a second copy of Corsair up front to give myself an opportunity to find a land next turn, even if Greg kills one of the Corsairs.
A swing from his own Corsair puts Pelican down to 16, and he'll play Arbor Colossus. Neat attack there. As we saw last turn, there was potential for Corsair to block if Greg plays a removal spell. So Greg could not remove Arbor Colossus and attack with Fleecemane. So Chris is actually valuing the damage that Corsair deals right now.
Well, also he values the Corsair and the potential to find a land drop so highly that he's unwilling to risk the Corsair in combat blocking next turn as well.
Yeah, I mean, will there be the risk, right, if Greg downfalls the Arbor Colossus? Maybe he could get a free block on Fleecemane Lion, but he just doesn't even want to go there.
I don't think he wants to. I think the odds that happens and matters are less likely than the 2 points of damage matters from Chris's side.
Yeah.
If he's already committed to, I'm almost certainly not blocking with Corsair Crewfix because of how much the land matters, you might as well just attack with it.
So here's Abzan Charm exiling Arbor Colossus, and 6 damage coming in. So yeah, 2 damage on Chris's side is traded for 3 going the other way. Chris will go down to 6. There are Siege Rhino. There's at least 1 Rhino in Greg's hand. I don't know. I wanted to hold the Corsair back. I know he's really valuable.
Sure.
I wish I was at 9 and not 6.
Yeah, with this sequence, Chris definitely would have been better served with the Corsair back on defense.
Oh, he'll get a shot. Can he get the untapped land? Draw Dragonlord Atarka. No, the top card is Whisperwood Elemental.
And now, for all the strength that's seemingly in Chris's hands, it's actually quite weak. He's got Dragonlord, 2 Dragonlord Atarkas in his hand that he can't cast, and another copy of Corsair Crewfix, which may be forced to block at least one of them this turn.
Yep, Corsair's cast here. He'll say go. Passes back to Greg. With Chris at 6, we know Greg has at least 1 Siege Rhino. Now, if Chris hits the untapped land off the top of the deck, he can just play Atarka and kill a Siege Rhino. And he would gain life to pull away from 3.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a swing. And interestingly enough, what do you think are the chances here that, well, I guess he has to block Death Dealer, first of all. It'll kill him.
Yes.
Okay. Does he throw a Corsair in front of each of the creatures?
Well, the problem is he needs to keep... I don't know he can double chump block here because he needs to keep...
It's not a double chump block if he puts one in front of both.
My point is that Chris needs to keep a Corsair and the Caryatid in play, 1 Corsair and Caryatid in play to have the hope of Dragonlord Atarka next turn.
Yep.
If he thinks like he can stabilize this game with Whisperwood Elemental, that's a different equation, and maybe you start making some different blocks. But he needs a Corsair and the ability to get to 7 mana next turn.
So he does have to put something in front of Rakshasa Death Dealer.
Yes.
If you're going to put a Corsair in front of Death Dealer, do you also put a Corsair in front of Lion?
I don't know what the plan is. Next turn you cast Whisperwood Elemental, and you're forced to double chump block again?
Well, it's not so you wouldn't double chump block there unless Greg has Abzan Charm, and then you're just wrecked.
Yeah.
Because he can't pump Death Dealer and pump Fleecemane. He only has 6 lands. This line takes the Dragonlord Atarka off the table.
I mean, I think that Chris is going to be hard-pressed to beat Siege Rhino anyway, because he's going to be forced to tender some pretty horrible blocks next turn. If Chris is playing here as Whisperwood Elemental and make two tokens.
Right.
Because he's inducing Greg here to say, all right, monsters your Fleecemane Lion. Now he has a Death Dealer and a 4/4 Fleecemane Lion. Whisperwood Elemental can't effectively block either of those creatures. So I feel like Chris is just in the same spot next turn.
Well, if he gets a free land off Corsair, he could put Fleecemane and he could put Whisperwood and chump Corsair, and then once Greg pumps a Death Dealer, he can sacrifice the Whisperwood and get a free card off the Corsair.
Sure.
So we'll see this. He draws Whisperwood, plays a life, goes to 7, has another untapped land on top of his deck. So the line for Atarka is there.
Well, keep in mind this gets manifested if he plays Whisperwood Elemental.
You're right. But he has to play Whisperwood. He can't play
Yeah,
nothing.
he's dead if he doesn't play Whisperwood Elemental.
So he'll fetch now to stay at 7. Had he kept the fetch land open, he could have had an extra control on his next draw to try to hit that untapped land.
Yeah.
So that management of fetch lands when you have a Courser in play can be so subtle.
Unless Chris feels like the information is really pertinent, but I just don't see how that's the case. I mean, Chris's play is pretty much face up.
See the Unwritten on top of Chris's deck. He'll play Whisperwood and manifest it. And the next card is going to be the untapped land, so he hits it anyway. Means Atarka is online for next turn. But these 2-drops, they have gotten quite beefy on Greg's side. We'll swing them both. Now, here's interesting. So he has some options. If Chris can put Courser and he's gonna put Courser and the Manifest in front of the 2 creatures.
Yeah, he just wants to keep chump blocking as much as he possibly can. If he assumes Dragonlord Atarka removes the threat, I mean, this probably should have been...
The block should have been the other way, right? They would force Greg to tap some mana?
Yeah, you at least make Greg spend 2 mana. But it's the same, at least the plan is obvious, which is just Whisper Elemental cranks out a blocker every turn, and on top of that, I have Dragonlord Atarka, although that doesn't actually answer anything on this board because Craig refused to commit the Siege Rhino.
That was heads-up play by Greg, not playing Rhino, knowing that Chris has Atarka. And another Manifest for Chris Hopkins. Turns out the 2 mana he could have had by switching the block, not really relevant. Greg had plenty to spare.
Yeah. I mean, Greg's not willing to commit anything to the table that can be killed by Dragonlord Atarka until Chris deploys it, so mana's not really an issue.
But right now, Chris does have Pelican covered. Dragonlord Atarka can continue to block the Fleece main line, and the Manifest made every turn can block Rakshasa Death Dealer. So there's not a straightforward way that Greg deals more damage. Though 1 removal spell knocks down this house of cards.
Yes, I mean, Chris is holding on right now. It's tenuous, but he does have the board covered, chump blocking the Death Dealer every turn, and having a 5/5 to put in front of Fleece main Lion. But that is not a recipe for forward progress, and this can easily be undone by a variety of cards in Greg's deck.
So yeah, Greg at 16, a healthy life total, but he is facing down a very large Dragonlord Atarka. At 16, that's a pretty convenient life total for Dragonlord Atarka. So here's the swing. Greg has to keep on attacking. Atarka will bounce off the Fleece main Lion. The Manifest will block the Rakshasa Death Dealer. It was an Elvish Mystic, but no mana to unmorph that thing. And is Chris gonna get this one? Here's Siege Rhino. Greg up to 19, Chris down to 4. Big play for Pelican. That should force Chris to deploy his second Dragonlord Atarka.
Which is very good news for Greg. I believe Greg's last card in hand is Sorin as well. Sorin becomes a pretty attractive play next turn potentially, as getting a Fleece main line up to a 5th point of power is very relevant if Chris's plan here is to have Dragonlord Atarka make Fleece main Lion bounce off.
Yeah, well, right now Greg has 3 attack. Yeah, Greg will just play Sorin, I believe make a Vampire. So the idea is that Greg has 4 creatures to Chris's 2 blockers. Right now, 3 of the 4 creatures are lethal. So Chris may have to make the unfortunate play of Atarka attacking Sorin, play second Atarka to Legend Rule away my first one just to kill Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
It's not attractive, but is his line.
And unfortunately, it's going to compel Chris to go on the offense turn after turn to try to get to Sorin.
Now, Chris does the first part where he attacks the Atarka, but he did not attack Sorin. Okay. He attacked Greg, and actually this is better. Dragonlord Atarka post-combat does 2 to Sorin and 3 to the Death Dealer. Greg, not having black-green up, loses the Regenerator.
Yeah, that was a really nice play there from Chris. I mean,
yeah, that's much stronger.
A lot of Greg's board just deteriorated there, and he's not in a position to attack. Chris might be on pace to turn this around with Whisperwood Elemental. And Greg's at 11. If Chris can crank out a steady stream of blockers here, it doesn't take long for Dragonlord Atarka to finish this game off.
2 turns. And Greg made an aggressive line there by playing the Sorin and taking down protection for his Rakshasa Death Dealer, and that may have cost him. Yeah. He leaves up mana to regenerate the Death Dealer. He doesn't have nearly as much pressure. But
It's possible on that previous turn, Greg is just better served by leaving Sorin in hand instead of tapping low.
Right.
Because the next turn, if Chris is defending the same way, playing Sorin and plussing is such a huge swing because Chris is trying to block Fleecemane Lion with Dragonlord Atarka, and if he has to commit the Dragonlord Atarka or the Whisperwood Elemental into combat where those creatures die, Chris's board position becomes very tenuous.
so attacks puts Greg down to 3 from the 8/8. And have I had a chance to tell you about Dragonlord Atarka? Because here's the third one.
Sure.
It's going to Legend Rule away the same one. And this time probably takes care of Siege Rhino.
So big.
He's debating between taking care of Siege Rhino or just killing the flyer to ensure the lethal swing next turn. So Vampire Token or Rhino, which one goes down? See what he picks. Checks out his manifest.
8/8's really big.
That guy is huge.
For some reason, I think because of Bogart and Hellkite and because of the fact that it's a 5, deals 5, I often have in my head that it's a 5/5. It's
And you're
no,
wait,
it's way bigger than that. Never mind.
The same way. Yeah, Dragon, he decides to take out the Vampire Token, manifests, and now we're back to Pelican. He got Chris down to 3, but is he able to seal it out? 4 life is not 3. Rhino won't do it for him.
Great comeback here from Chris on a 5-card hand to boot. I was skeptical earlier if Whisperwood Elemental would be able to turn this game around, but on the back of that and Dragonlord Atarka, Chris has built a mighty fine defense for himself.
3 Dragonlord Atarkas in a row. And for Greg, a well-played game. I think there's one turn he may want back. He's been playing very well here, though. Here's Siege Rhino and Fleecemane Lion a swing, and this looks like the swing of a defeated player. No, show me that you make the right block.
Yeah, Chris just needs to overblock on the Trampler here in case Greg has found a bunch of removal spells. And you see Chris is aware of that and quickly throws everything in front of the Siege Rhino.
Greg's hand is land and Dromoka's command. That's not going to do anything. And Chris Hopkins with the comeback and Green-Red Devotion, or Green-Red Dragons rather, takes the match.
He was on a 5-card hand. His first courser got hit by Dromoka's command. It looked like the mixture of Fleecemane Lion and Rakshasa Death Dealer was going to make it impossible for him to block effectively. And Dragonlord Atarka just so big, so much control over the board. Whisperwood Elemental as well. Just a great comeback there from Chris.